The silver ship cut through Earth's atmosphere like a knife. It made no sound as it descended toward the meeting point in Seoul. On the ground, Captain Doyen Kim stood straight and tall. His dark uniform was crisp, metals shining in the morning sun. Next to him, Lieutenant Minji Park fidgeted with her translator device. "Stop that," Doyen said quietly. "We must look calm." "Sorry, Captain," Minji whispered. "It's not every day we meet aliens for the first time." Dr. Suho Lee joined them, carrying his medical kit. His eyes were fixed on the approaching ship. "Incredible engineering," he muttered. "Their metal doesn't even heat up during atmospheric entry." The world had been in chaos for 3 weeks, ever since the Tozari Confederation announced their existence to Earth. Their message had been simple. "We have observed your planet for 50 years. We will now make contact." That was all. No explanation of who they were or what they wanted. Doyen had been chosen because of his calm nature and experience. He had fought in the Third Pacific Conflict, where he learned that words could sometimes achieve what weapons could not. Minji was there because she had a gift for languages that even computers couldn't match. And Suho was Earth's best scientist when it came to studying new life forms. The ship touched down without raising a speck of dust. A ramp extended smoothly to the ground. "Remember," Doyen told his team, "no sudden movements, no weapons. We are here to talk, not fight." The first alien that walked down the ramp was tall and slender. Its skin was pale blue, with patterns that seemed to shift like clouds. It had 4 arms and moved with liquid grace. Behind it came 5 more aliens, each wearing what looked like armor made of light. "I am Ambassador Kozu of the Tozari Confederation," the first alien said in perfect Korean. Its voice had an odd musical quality. "We come to evaluate if your species is ready to join the galactic community." Doyen bowed slightly. "I am Captain Doyen Kim of the United Earth Defense Force. This is Lieutenant Minji Park and Dr. Suho Lee. We welcome you to Earth." The alien named Kozu tilted its head. Its eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, blinked in sequence. "You send military personnel to greet us? This confirms our initial assessment." Minji stepped forward. "Captain Kim is also a diplomat. On Earth, many of our best peacekeepers come from military backgrounds. They understand the value of avoiding conflict." The aliens spoke among themselves in clicks and whistles. Doyen noticed how they looked at the city behind them, at the mix of old temples and new skyscrapers, at the people watching from a safe distance. There was something in their gaze that bothered him. It was the way wealthy people sometimes looked at those who lived in poor neighborhoods. Pity mixed with disgust. "Please follow us," Doyen said. "We have prepared a meeting place." They walked to a nearby building, the old National Museum, cleared for this historic meeting. Inside, a large round table had been set up. Screens on the walls showed the faces of world leaders watching from their countries. As they sat, Ambassador Kozu placed a small device on the table. It projected a hologram of Earth spinning slowly. "Your planet is rich in resources," Kozu said. "And your species shows potential, despite your primitive tendencies." Doyen kept his face neutral, but he felt anger rise in his chest. "What do you mean by primitive? You still fight wars among yourselves. Your nations compete instead of cooperate. You damage your environment for temporary gain." The alien gestured with its lower arms. "These are signs of an immature species." Minji leaned forward. "With respect, Ambassador, we are working to overcome these problems. In the last 50 years, yes, we have observed some progress," Kozu interrupted. "This is why we have chosen to make contact now instead of waiting another century." Suho, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "May I ask what the Tozari Confederation can offer Earth, and what you seek in return?" The hologram changed to show strange machines and structures. "We can offer technological advancement, medical knowledge that would eliminate most of your diseases, energy systems that would end your dependence on fossil fuels." Kozu's eyes blinked in that odd pattern again. In exchange, we seek access to your planet's resources and permission to establish bases in your solar system. What resources specifically? Doyen asked. Water, certain minerals, biological samples. The alien made a gesture that might have been a shrug. Nothing you would miss, I assure you. The meeting continued for hours. The aliens answered questions but asked few of their own. They seemed more interested in explaining than understanding. When they finally returned to their ship, promising to come back the next day, Doyen felt exhausted. Back at the command center, he met with General Taiho Bai, Earth's military commander. What do you think? The general asked. Doyen chose his words carefully. They have amazing technology. They could help us solve many problems, but what? They don't respect us. They see us as children at best, savages at worst. Doyen looked at the satellite image of the alien ship glowing softly in the night. And they want something. Something more than what they're saying. Minji joined them carrying her notes. Their language is interesting. When they talk about guiding us, the word they use is closer to controlling or directing. When they talk about primitive, there's a tone that suggests dangerous. General, Bei frowned. Are they afraid of us? That seems unlikely given their technology. Maybe not afraid, Suho said as he entered the room, but cautious. I noticed how they kept their distance from us, how they scanned our food before accepting any. They may see us as unpredictable. Doyen looked out the window at Seoul's lights. We need to show them they're wrong about humanity, that we're more than our conflicts and mistakes. How do we do that? Asked Minji. By being honest. By showing them both our strengths and weaknesses. Doyen turned to face his team. Tomorrow, I want to take them to places that show the full picture of humanity. A hospital, a school, an old battlefield that's now a peace park. General Bei nodded slowly. A bold approach, Captain. They've been watching us from a distance, Doyen said. Now it's time they saw us up close. That night, as the city slept, under the alien ship's soft glow, Doyen couldn't help but wonder what other visitors might be out there among the stars, and whether the Tozari were telling the whole truth about why they had come to Earth. He didn't know that in 6 months, both humans and Tozari would face a threat that would change everything they thought they knew about each other. 6 months had passed since the Tozari arrived on Earth. Their ships now orbited the planet, and they had built a base on Mars. They shared some technology with humans, better solar panels, medicines for some diseases, and faster computers. But they still looked down on humans. They still called them primitive when they thought no one was listening. Colonel Jiwoo Kang stood on the lunar base, looking up at Earth. The blue planet shone like a jewel against the black sky. Jiwoo commanded the Moon Defense Platform, a joint project between humans and reluctant Tozari advisors. She didn't trust the aliens, but she followed orders. Colonel, we're getting strange readings, said Lieutenant Hyun. Her sensor officer, Jiwoo, walked to the command screen. Show me. Something is distorting space at the edge of the solar system, Hyun said. It's like ripples in water. Jiwoo frowned. Contact Tozari Command. Ask if this is one of their ships. But before Hyun could send the message, alarms blared throughout the base. The main screen lit up with dozens of objects moving fast toward the inner planets. What are those? Jiwoo demanded. Unknown, Colonel. They don't match any Tozari or Earthship patterns. Hyun's voice shook. They're moving faster than anything I've ever seen. Jiwoo hit the emergency button. All stations to battle positions. This is not a drill. On Mars, the Tozari Defense Station detected the incoming ships too. Ambassador Kozu was meeting with Captain Doyen Kim when the alert came. Impossible, Kozu said when he saw the readings. The Vandar never come this far into the spiral arm. The Vandar? Doyen asked. Who are they? Kozu's skin paled to a lighter blue. A species made of living crystal. They consume energy and consider organic life inferior. If they're here... The alien didn't finish the sentence. The first attack came without warning. The Vandar ships, shaped like jagged crystals, fired beams of white light at the Tozari station on Mars. The beams cut through the Tazari shields as if they weren't there. Quantum phase weapons, Kozu explained as they watched the station burn. They shift matter between states. Our shields are useless. Doyen grabbed a comm unit. This is Captain Kim to all Earth forces. We are under attack by a hostile alien force. This is not the Tazari. Repeat, this is a new threat. Prepare for combat. The Vandar moved through the solar system with terrifying speed. 3 ships headed for the moon. 4 more headed for Earth. The rest swarmed around Mars, destroying Tazari ships. On the lunar base, Jiwoo watched the approaching enemy. She had only 6 defense ships, small and not very powerful. The Vandar would destroy them in seconds in a direct fight. We can't win a fair battle, she told her pilots. So we won't fight fair. Instead of meeting the Vandar head-on, Jiwoo ordered her ships to hide behind moon craters. When the Vandar passed overhead, the Earth ships popped up and fired before ducking back down. Hit and run, Jiwoo told them. Like wolves against a bear. The tactic confused the Vandar. Their ships were powerful but not very maneuverable. They couldn't turn quickly to catch the smaller Earth vessels. Meanwhile, on Mars, Doyen and Kozu boarded the last working Tozari ship, the Eternal Horizon. The ship was huge and beautiful, like a blue whale swimming through space, but it was also damaged from the first attack. We must reach Earth, Kozu said. The Vandar will try to destroy your planet's power sources first. They hunger for energy. As they flew toward Earth, they saw a terrible sight. A Tozari passenger ship, filled with civilian scientists, was being chased by 2 Vandar vessels. The passenger ship had no weapons. We must help them, Doyen said. We cannot, Captain Nexu of the Eternal Horizon replied. Our ship is damaged, we would all die. Doyen stared at the Tozari captain. Those are your people, we can't just leave them. Nexu hesitated, then nodded. Very well. We will try. The Eternal Horizon turned toward the Vandar ships. It fired its remaining weapons, drawing the attackers away from the passenger vessel. For a moment it worked. The Vandar turned to face this new threat, but then they fired their quantum phase beams. The Eternal Horizon shuddered as the beams tore through its hull. Engine room hit, someone shouted. We're losing power. Captain Nexu stood firm on his bridge as systems failed around him. Continue firing, the passenger ship must escape. On the lunar base, Jiwoo saw what was happening. The Eternal Horizon was buying time for the passenger ship, but it was a suicide mission. Squad 3, with me, she ordered, climbing into her own ship. We're going to help that Tazari vessel. Colonel, we're supposed to defend the moon, her second-in-command protested. And who will we be defending it for if everyone dies? Jiwoo shot back. Launch now. 3 small Earth ships raced from the moon toward the battle. They were fast but lightly armed. Against the Vandar, they seemed like toys, but Jiwoo had a plan. Target the joint between the crystal segments, she told her pilots. Full power. To forward guns, short bursts only. The Earth ships darted around the Vandar vessels like mosquitoes around elephants. Their small guns couldn't do much damage, but they distracted the Vandar. Meanwhile, the Eternal Horizon limped away, escorting the passenger ship toward Earth. It's working, Hyun shouted over the comm. Then a Vandar beam caught one of the Earth ships. It exploded instantly, killing everyone inside. A second Earth ship was hit moments later. Jiwoo gritted her teeth and kept fighting. Her ship ducked and weaved between Vandar beams. She managed to hit the weak spot on one Vandar ship, causing a small explosion that didn't destroy it, but made it pull back. Finally, the Eternal Horizon and the passenger ship reached Earth's defense perimeter. Other ships came out to meet them, and the Vandar decided not to follow. Jiwoo's ship, the only survivor from her squad, limped back to the lunar base. 3 good pilots dead, but hundreds of Tozari civilians saved. On Earth, Doyun helped carry the wounded from the Eternal Horizon. Captain Nexu was among them, a large wound in his chest where a beam had hit him. Why did you help us? A Tozari officer asked Jiwoo when she finally reached Earth. You lost ships. Your people died. Because today we fight on the same side, she replied simply. That night, as medics from both species worked to save lives, Ambassador Kozu found Doyen staring at the sky where battles still raged. Perhaps, the alien admitted quietly, we were wrong about humans. Doyen didn't answer. He was thinking about the ships that had been lost and the greater battle that was still to come. The Vandar weren't retreating. They were regrouping. And next time they would come in even greater numbers. The war had only just begun. 2 weeks after the first Vandar attack, Earth was a different place. The skies that once held stars now flashed with distant battles. Cities kept their lights off at night to make them harder to target. And everywhere, humans and Tozari worked, side by side despite their differences. Captain Doyen Kim stood in Seoul Command Center looking at a large map table. It showed the positions of all Earth and Tozari ships as well as the Vandar forces. The news wasn't good. They've taken the outer planets, Doyen said to Sub-Commander Lizu, who had become the main Tozari military contact. And they've destroyed most of our satellites. Lizu's blue skin had grown darker with stress. They are moving in a standard conquest pattern. They will strike your major power sources next, then your defense centers. The door opened, and Minji Park rushed in. Her usual neat appearance was gone. She looked tired, her hair messy, her uniform wrinkled. "Captain, I need to talk to you about the Vandar communications," she said. "I think I've found something." Before she could explain, alarms blared throughout the building. A voice came over the speakers. "All personnel, incoming attack. This is not a drill. Take cover immediately." The first blast hit nearby, shaking the building. Lights flickered, then went out. Emergency lights came on, casting red shadows everywhere. "We need to reach the bunker," Doyen said, grabbing his tablet. "Minji, Lizu, with me." They ran through hallways filled with people rushing to safety. Another blast hit, closer this time. Part of the ceiling collapsed, blocking the main path to the bunker. "This way," Doyen said, turning down a side corridor. "There's another route." But when they reached the end of the corridor, they found the door jammed. As they tried to force it open, a third blast hit directly above them. The entire ceiling came down. Doyen pushed Minji out of the way just in time. When the dust cleared, they found themselves cut off from the rest of the building. The corridor behind them was blocked with rubble, and the door in front of them was still jammed. "Are you hurt?" Doyen asked, looking at Minji and Lizu. "I'm fine," Minji said, though she had a cut on her forehead. "Functional," Lizu said stiffly. Tozari hated to admit weakness. Doyen checked his tablet. "No signal. We can't call for help." He looked around. "We need to find another way out." They forced open a door leading outside, only to find chaos. The command center had been hit hard. Fires burned in several places. People ran in all directions. Above, strange crystal ships, Vandar attackers, flew through the smoke-filled sky. "We can't stay here," Doyen said. "We need to reach the secondary command post." "That is 15 kilometers from here," Lizu pointed out. "Then we better start walking," Doyen replied. For 3 days they moved through a city under attack. They hid from Vandar patrols. They helped wounded people they found along the way. They shared their limited food and water. At night they took turns keeping watch while the others slept in abandoned buildings or subway tunnels. On the second day, they found a group of injured soldiers, 3 humans and 2 Tozari, hiding in a collapsed store. The soldiers had basic medical supplies but not enough food. "We'll take them with us," Doyen decided. "They will slow us down," Lizu argued. "We don't leave people behind," Doyen said firmly. "Not yours, not ours." Lizu stared at him for a long moment, then nodded, once. By the 3rd day, Minji had a fever from her infected wound. One of the Tozari soldiers was too weak to walk. Doyen and Lizu took turns carrying him. "I don't understand you," Lizu said quietly to Doyen as they rested in the shadow of a broken bridge. "Your species fights itself constantly. You are divided by borders and beliefs, yet now you risk your life for aliens you barely know." Doyen gave the Tozari a tired smile. "That's the thing your people never understood about us. We fight, yes, but we also save. We destroy, but we also build. We can hate, but we can love too, sometimes all at once. Lizu considered this. A contradiction. Being human is full of contradictions, Doyun agreed. They finally reached the secondary command post on the evening of the third day. They were dirty, hungry, and exhausted. But they were alive, and they had saved the wounded. As medics took Minji to treat her infection, she grabbed Doyun's arm. "Captain, I need to tell you, the Vandar communications, I found a pattern. Meanwhile, across the world, scientists from both species work to find a way to fight the Vandar. Dr. Suho Lee led the research team at the underground lab in Australia, one of the few places still untouched by the attacks. Their crystal structure is unlike anything we've seen," Suho told the gathered scientists, both human and Tozari. "It's not just their ships. The Vandar themselves are made of the same material." He showed scans of a small piece of crystal recovered from a damaged Vandar ship. "This isn't just technology. It's part of them. They don't build their ships. They grow them." A Tozari scientist named Velks stepped forward. "The Confederation has studied the Vandar for centuries, but from a distance. They destroy any research teams that get too close. We know they consume energy directly and consider organic life to be inferior. If they're made of crystal," Suho said slowly, "then they must have the properties of crystal, including—" He paused, thinking. "Including resonance." When Minji's fever finally broke, she explained her discovery to Doyun and the other leaders at the command post. "I've been studying their communication patterns," she said. "The Tozari tried to decode them with complex algorithms, but that didn't work. So, I tried something simpler. I looked at the patterns as if they were language." She showed them a tablet with sound waves displayed on it. "Human languages evolved in many different directions because we were separated by geography. But Vandar language evolved from a single pattern, like music, with variations on a theme." General Taiho Bei looked skeptical. "How does this help us fight them?" "Because," Suho Lee said, joining the meeting through a video call, "if their language has a base pattern, their physical structure might have a resonant frequency. And if we can find that frequency, we can shatter them like glass," Minji finished. For the next week, they worked day and night on what they called Operation Resonance. Suho's team found the exact frequency that made Vandar crystals vibrate, uncontrollably. Minji's team used the pattern from Vandar communications to create a delivery system, a signal that would carry the resonant frequency past their defenses. All they needed was to get close enough to the main Vandar ship, the one they called the Prismatic Mind, to transmit the signal. "It will be dangerous," Doyun told the pilots who volunteered for the mission. "Many of you won't come back." A young pilot stepped forward. "With respect, Captain, we all know the stakes. If we don't stop them, there won't be an Earth to come back to anyway." The final battle was set to begin. As the joint human-Tozari fleet prepared to launch, Doyun found Lizu staring at Earth through a viewport. "Your world is beautiful," the Tozari said quietly. "I did not see it before. I was looking with the wrong eyes." "We'll protect it together," Doyun promised. "And when this is over, perhaps our peoples can start again. Not as teacher and student, but as equals." Lizu turned to look at him. "I would like that, Captain Kim." Above them, the stars waited, and among them the Vandar prepared for what they thought would be their final victory. They didn't know that humans and Tozari had found their weakness. They didn't know that Operation Resonance was about to begin, and they certainly didn't know what would happen after the battle was won. Operation Resonance changed everything. The joint human-Tozari fleet battled the Vandar for 18 hours straight. Many ships were lost. Many brave pilots died. But in the end, they succeeded. The resonance signal reached the Prismatic Mind, the main Vandar ship. The crystal beings had no defense against their own natural frequency. Most of the Vandar fleet shattered into beautiful, deadly shards. The Prismatic Mind itself was damaged, but not destroyed. In a surprise move, Colonel Ji-Woo Kang led a boarding party onto the crippled ship and captured the Vandar leader. 2 weeks later, Admiral Doyen Kim, newly promoted for his role in the victory, stood on a grassy plateau overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Behind him stood thousands of people, humans, from every nation, Tozari visitors and reporters from both species. Before him stretched row after row of markers, each one bearing a name. "Today we remember those who fell in the Battle of Earth," Doyen said, his voice carried by speakers to the crowd. "We honor their sacrifice and their courage." There were over 5,000 markers. Most were for humans. Many were for Tozari. But what shocked the alien visitors most were the smaller markers placed among the others, crystal spires that represented the fallen Vandar. Ambassador Kozu approached Doyen after the speech. "I do not understand," the Tozari said. "The Vandar tried to destroy both our peoples. Why would you honor them alongside our heroes?" Doyen looked out at the field of markers glinting in the sunlight. "Throughout human history, we've learned something important about war. If you don't honor your enemies, you create new enemies in the future. Their families seek revenge, the cycle continues. The Vandar have no families as we understand them," Kozu pointed out. "That's not the point," Doyen said patiently. "When we honor fallen enemies, we acknowledge their courage while still opposing their cause. We recognize that in different circumstances, we might have been friends instead of enemies." Minji Park joined them, wearing a formal uniform with her new lieutenant commander insignia. Her wound had healed, leaving only a small scar on her forehead. "The ceremony starts in 10 minutes, Admiral," she told Doyen. "The children are ready." Kozu tilted his head in confusion. "Children? At a memorial for war dead?" "It's an important part of our tradition," Minji explained. "Children who never knew war place flowers at the markers. It symbolizes hope for a peaceful future." As they spoke, Dr. Suho Lee approached with a Tozari scientist. Between them walked, or rather, floated, a small Vandar. Unlike the warriors they had fought, this one was no larger than a human child. Its crystal body glowed with soft, changing colors. "This is Prism Sound in Light," Suho introduced the Vandar. "One of the non-warrior caste we found in the captured ship. It has agreed to participate in the ceremony." The small Vandar made a series of musical tones. A translator device Suho carried spoke in a neutral voice. "I observe your remembrance ritual with interest. Our kind does not mourn. When a crystal breaks, its pieces may form new awareness. Nothing is truly lost." "Perhaps," Doyen said, "but it is changed forever, and we mourn that change." The ceremony began as the sun started to descend toward the ocean. Representatives from human nations and Tozari colony ships gathered in a large circle. In the center stood a simple platform where speakers would share words of remembrance. First came the children. Hundreds of them, from toddlers to teenagers, walked among the markers placing flowers. They didn't care which markers stood for humans, which for Tozari, or which for Vandar. They placed their flowers with equal care at each one. A Tozari diplomat standing near Kozu whispered, "I don't understand this part at all." The children smile as they place the flowers. Should this not be solemn? "For humans, hope and sadness often exist together," Doyen explained, overhearing the comment. The children smile because they believe they're bringing comfort to the dead. They're too young to fully understand loss, but old enough to understand kindness. Next came the speaking of names. Minji stepped onto the platform with a tablet. In a clear voice, she began to read. "Captain Sarah Chen, United Earth Defense Force, Navigator Trill Light Sound, Tozari Confederation, Crystal Song Sharp, Vandar Collective." She read for over an hour, naming every fallen soldier from all three species. When she reached the end, her voice was hoarse but steady. "In remembering them all," she concluded, "we acknowledge that loss transcends species. Even those who sought our destruction were sentient beings with their own understanding of existence." As Minji stepped down, Navy vessels from both human and Tozari fleets fired ceremonial volleys over the ocean. The sound echoed across the water and back to the plateau. Then came the most unexpected part of the ceremony. Dr. Suho Lee and Prism Sound in Light moved to the center of the circle. The small Vandar produced a crystal from within its body. a shard that glowed with inner light. "This contains the last resonance patterns of those who broke in the battle," the translator explained as the Vandar spoke in musical tones. "What you would call their final thoughts. I will share them so you may know those you fought." The crystal rose from the Vandar's body and hovered in the air. It began to pulse with light, and strange, beautiful music filled the air. It wasn't exactly music as humans understood it. It had patterns and emotions that felt alien, but it was undeniably alive with feeling. Some of the humans in the crowd began to cry. Even some Tazari, who normally controlled their emotions carefully, showed signs of being moved. Their skin rippled with color patterns that their own kind recognized as deep feeling. When the crystal's song ended, silence fell over the gathering. For a long moment, no one spoke or moved. Then a human child, perhaps 5 years old, walked up to the small Vandar and placed a flower at its base. The crystal being lowered itself to the child's level, its colors shifting to soft pink and gold. "Thank you," the translator said simply. As the sun set over the ocean, lighting the field of markers in gold and red, Ambassador Kozu found himself standing next to Admiral Kim once more. "I have seen many species across the galaxy," the Tozari said quietly. "Many were more technologically advanced than humans. Many were physically stronger or lived longer lives. But I have never seen a species that honors its enemies as you do." Doyen nodded. "It's not easy. Many of our people lost loved ones in this war. Some are angry that we include the Vandar in our memorial. But if we don't break the cycle of hatred, we're no better than the Vandar were, seeing other life as less valuable than our own." As darkness fell, the final part of the ceremony began. Thousands of paper lanterns were lit, each carrying a small light. People released them into the night sky, where they drifted like new stars over the ocean. "What do the lights represent?" Kozu asked. "The journey onward," Doyen explained. "Whatever comes after death. Different human cultures have different beliefs about that, but most agree that death is not the end." The ambassador watched the lights, floating away. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we were wrong about what makes a species civilized." Doyen smiled slightly. "Perhaps we all were." 5 years passed. Earth had changed. The war with the Vandar left scars on the planet, but it also opened doors to the stars. Human ships now traveled to other solar systems. Tozari technology helped clean Earth's air and oceans. And most importantly, the two species worked as partners, not as teacher and student. Admiral Doyen Kim stood on the deck of the starship Unity, looking out at the vastness of space. The ship was the first of its kind, built by both humans and Tozari, with some systems designed using knowledge from the Vandar. It was heading to the Galactic Council, where Earth would formally join the community of spacefaring species. "Nervous?" asked Minji, now a captain herself. She had become Doyen's right hand over the years. "A little," Doyen admitted. "It's a big responsibility, speaking for all of Earth." "You won't be alone," Minji reminded him. "Ambassador Kozu will be there too." That was true. Kozu had become Earth's strongest supporter among the Tazari. He argued passionately that humans deserved a place on the Galactic Council, despite being newer to space travel than other members. Dr. Suho Lee joined them on the observation deck. Age had whitened his hair, but his eyes were still sharp and curious. "I just finished my final checks with our guest. It's ready to address the council." Their guest was the former Vandar leader, once called the Prismatic Mind. After its capture, it had been expected to remain silent forever. But over time, with patient work from both human and Tozari scientists, communication had been established. The Vandar had begun to understand organic life in new ways. "Does it understand what we're asking?" Doyen wanted to know. "I believe so," Suho said. "It knows that speaking to the Council about peace between crystal and organic life forms could change the future for everyone." When the Unity arrived at the Galactic Council station, they were met with mixed reactions. Some species welcomed them warmly, others watched with suspicion. Humans were still new and untested in the galactic community. The council chamber was enormous. A great circular room with seats for representatives from 27 different species. Doyen felt small as he walked to the speaker's platform, but he kept his back straight and his head high. Members of the Galactic Council, he began. I come before you as a representative of Earth. 5 years ago, most of you had never heard of humans. The Tazari Confederation had judged us as primitive and unready for the stars. He paused, looking around the chamber. They weren't entirely wrong. We are young as a spacefaring species. We still have much to learn. But we believe we have something valuable to contribute to this council. A being made of what looked like liquid metal spoke up. And what could that possibly be, human? Your technology is borrowed. Your understanding of the cosmos is limited. Why should you have a seat among species that have traveled the stars for thousands of years? Before Doyen could answer, Ambassador Kozu stepped forward. His blue skin had darkened with age, but he stood tall and dignified. If I may address the council, Kozu said. The Tozari once thought as you do. We measured civilization by technology, by the age of a species' space program, by the number of planets they had settled. But humans taught us that we were using the wrong measuring stick. Murmurs ran through the chamber as Kozu continued. True civilization isn't about how many stars you've reached. It's about how you treat others, especially those different from yourself, even those who have harmed you. The liquid metal being seemed unimpressed. Pretty words, but meaningless. What proof do you offer of this special human wisdom? Perhaps I can provide that proof, said a musical voice from the side of the chamber. The prismatic mind floated forward. Its crystal body had changed over the years, less jagged with softer light patterns flowing through it. Many council members shifted uneasily in their seats. The Vandar were feared throughout the galaxy. I once led my kind against the organics, the crystal being said, its words translated by a small device. I believed they were less than us. Temporary, messy, inefficient. We sought to cleanse planets of organic life and use their energy for ourselves. The chamber was completely silent now. When I was captured, I expected to be destroyed. In our way of thinking, enemies are eliminated, not preserved. But instead, humans did something I could not understand. The Vandar's colors shifted to deep blue. They honored our fallen. They treated them with the same respect as their own dead. They acknowledged that we had our own understanding of existence. The prismatic mind moved closer to Doyen. Over time, they showed me that organic and crystal life can exist together, that we can learn from each other instead of destroying each other. This is wisdom my kind has never known in our 50,000 years of existence. Doyen looked around. The chamber. Some of the council members seemed thoughtful now. Others still looked doubtful. He decided to take a risk. Members of the council, he said, I invite you to visit Earth. Specifically, to visit our memorial plateau. Every year since the war, we have held a ceremony there to remember the fallen, all the fallen. It has become a place where species learn to see each other not as enemies but as fellow travelers in the universe. A being with 6 arms and eyes like stars leaned forward. Is it true that humans weep for their enemies as well as their friends? Our observers reported this, but we found it difficult to believe. We mourn all loss of life, Minji answered, because each life, whatever its form, has value. In the end, the council voted. It wasn't unanimous, but it was enough. Earth would join the Galactic Council, with Do-Yoon Kim as its first representative. That evening, as the Unity prepared to return home, Do-Yoon found Ambassador Kozu standing on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Thank you, Do-Yoon said simply. Without your support, we wouldn't have been accepted. Kozu turned to him. No, Admiral. Thank you. Your species reminded mine of something we had forgotten a long time ago. What's that? That compassion isn't weakness. That understanding your enemy doesn't mean excusing their actions. That honoring all life, even life very different from your own, is the true mark of civilization. As they spoke, the prismatic mind joined them. The three stood together looking out at the galaxy. Once enemies, now colleagues working toward peace. There is a word in Korean, Doyen said after a while. Han. It means a deep sorrow that turns into wisdom and resilience. It's what we feel when we remember the war. Not just our pain, but everyone's pain, transformed into something that makes us stronger. The Vandar's colors rippled thoughtfully. In our way, we have no word for this. Perhaps we should create one. Back on Earth, the Memorial Plateau had become famous throughout the galaxy. Species from distant worlds made pilgrimages to see the place where enemies were honored alongside allies. The simple markers had been joined by sculptures, gardens, and paintings, each representing how different cultures remembered their dead. And every year, children still walked among the markers, placing flowers. The simple gesture, more than any grand speech or treaty, showed what humans had taught the galaxy. That civilization begins when you can mourn even those who sought to destroy you. As another sunset painted the markers gold, a young Tozari asked his human friend, "Why do we do this every year? The war is long over." The human child, placing a flower at a crystal spire, answered with the wisdom of the innocent. "So we don't forget that everyone matters, even the ones we don't understand. And that in the end was the gift humanity brought to the stars." End of story.